Yes, Top 100. Hope everyone's well. Just before the start of this episode, a quick reminder that currently Schalke are available to apply for in Top 100. Obviously, they've been a Division 1 club over the years for quite some time, probably a majority spent now in Division 2. We do go on to discuss, that's myself and the guests on this episode, what we would maybe look to do if we were to be in charge of Schalke. And I think that will sort of happen around the 50 to 1 hour mark on the episode. A slightly longer one, hour and 10 minutes. So otherwise, if you want to sort of take a little insight into maybe what other people would plan to do with that Schalke squad, and it might encourage you to apply for that job, which should be available for the next 12 to 24 hours. Take a listen to that segment. If not, hopefully you'll enjoy the rest of it otherwise. So without further ado, here's the episode. Alright, hi everyone, welcome to this Top 100 episode with two new people joining us, I guess, for Top 100 TV, at least anyway. I'm sure you've both sort of appeared on similar things before, but we've got Nick Justice, currently managing at Shakhtar. Nick, how you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, good. Not too bad. Looking forward to getting down to it and discussing some transfers and sort of strategies and such around it. And then second guest for tonight, we have the Leicester City manager, Doug. Doug, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
All right, spot on. We're going with like a bit of a transfer heavy sort of theme tonight. Good to have a different agenda, I think. And for me, getting yourselves on as two managers, I've seen probably be sort of like up there with some of the best sort of squad builders in different game worlds and putting together teams. And I think we've probably all had similar sort of approaches and ways of doing it in the past. But good to get your thoughts and things on strategies and how you sort of go about things. So I think it's worth sort of jumping probably straight into it and saying, like, with transfer strategies, would you say you've ever had or have a particular transfer strategy when it does come to squad building? Like, is there anything that ever you go, okay, that's what I have to do every time, or is it sort of dependent on a game world or a squad? Nick, start with yourself.
Great question, to be fair. I must admit I have a very similar strategy in most game worlds, which is to try and buy quality younger players. Obviously, I don't think many people want... It's weird, like on SM, when a player hits like 28, it's like they're dead, basically, because not many people would always be that interested. So I always try and aim for under 25s, but they have to be good as well. I wouldn't just sign random under 25s just for the sake of it. I have a massive passion for football, so I watch loads of different leagues all over the world to try and keep up with football on a regular basis. I'm in a lot of competitive game modes where you have to be on it in the market, otherwise you only have to take one fuck up and then your team's done. You don't want to be selling assets off for cheap or no deal that's not going to be beneficial to the long-term sustainability of the team. So that was my method when I came in, because when I took over Shakhtar, the team was an absolute shit tip, basically, really, to be honest. I can't complain, though, because I got in, and there's probably people that have taken over worse sides. But I had to work the market how I could. We lost a lot of ratings to get the players we wanted, but at the same time, I'm not all about the quick wins. I built up Aston Villa in this game world before, got promoted and built up a nice team. And that's the philosophy I took on when I took over the Shakhtar team, was to do the same, try and get some good assets where you can. There'll always be new young players that come on the database as well. There's lots on that I know of that aren't even on the database yet. So I'm just waiting for those to come on as well, keep a space or two free for them. But I like to do a lot of internal deals, as most of you probably see in many game worlds. I've done a few with Doug as well already, and done a few with lots of people in this game world, to be fair. It's all about the interaction as well. Like, I enjoy the good back and forth, having a few messages. Everyone's got a different opinion as well. I must admit, though, one of the things I do hate, pet peeve, which obviously some people do use, is I hate people that use transfer market value for players, because it's a lot of it's a load of tosh. Like, if a player can be worth like 30 million, but if you've watched him play, you'd be like, well, there's no way in hell that player's worth 30 million. Like, look at Timo Werner, for example, right? He can't hit a barn door with a banjo in the Premier League, and he's worth like 60 odd million. But in obviously Leipzig and Stuttgart, he was really good. So it's about working the market with that as well. But a lot of people do use that. They're like, well, this person's worth 15 million, and your person's worth 6. I was like, yeah, but if you actually watch them play, my player's probably going to be better long term. But fair enough. But each to their own, I guess. But my strategy is to get the best players you can, for as cheap as possible. And it's worked a few times. I've done a few deals where, in my opinion, I've got them cheaply because I've given up old shit and they've got in some good assets, and that's what I'll continue to do. There's been deals where they've been like the one with Doug, for example, today. It's like a deal that you would consider being like level, I would say. Like they're both players that are all 4 players that are moving have got similar potential. It's just about preference, really. Like I prefer Tuta to Chalobah. I think obviously watching Frankfurt, I know he's not featured this year yet, but last season he was pivotal, and there was a reason he was linked to like Real Madrid. He is a good defender, and I think Chalobah, it's only a matter of time before he joins the Chelsea line of players that never play and end up going out on loan 17 million times by the time they're 28 and then ruining their career, like Van Ginkel and players like that never really sold them when they should have done. Danny Drinkwater, why the fuck's he still on loan from Chelsea? God knows why. They just like to keep players. The same Man City, they do similar as well. They like to know that they own everyone, and they just keep loaning them out. But at the same time, I could be wrong, and Chalobah could end up being the next John Terry, and then Doug makes me look like a right tit.
I'd like that.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
So, but you never know. Like, that's football. It's all opinions as well. Like, what I have an opinion on a player, someone else might not have. Like, for example, as well, like a team you support. Like, I have a affiliation to obviously West Ham players. If anyone offers me them, they could be like Mark Noble, and I'd still be like, yeah, let's have him. Or any West Ham player, because you do. It's your club.
Yeah.
But everyone's different.
So no, definitely.
That's it, really. Basically, just one.
Definitely an approach to sort of taking on like a younger kind of squad, and then looking like longer term in terms of like you're happy to take those like smaller ratings, a bit of youth on the side of it. In the end, it's going to work towards hopefully everything coming together at the same time, and then you've got a team that can sort of jump up the table, compete and such.
That's the case, and obviously as well as sellable players. Like you need to buy sellable players, because if you have a market where like top 100, if you don't have any sellable players, one, you're not going to go anywhere. And 2, it just takes a lot of a bit of the enjoyment out of not being able to do any deals or just sit on the same team or look external all the time. There'll be players that are coming through that people will want. You need to have sellable players. That's just the case in any game. Was deep into seasons, you need to have sellable assets.
So yeah, basically just working like a business in terms of making sure you've always got that sort of assets or value, I guess.
100%.
Now, Doug, how about yourself? Is there anything sort of different or a particular approach you might go with?
No, I mean, you want to get as young as you can, really. As long as they are good, though, you don't just want to buy whatever you want. And although that's kind of what I aim for, I wouldn't say that's all I do. So, I mean, a deal that stands out to me was I got rid of Mawasa, who's 22, 87, and I got in Dudu and Balde, who are 88 and 89. They're older, and it's not something I'd usually do, but I mean, at the time, it just it fit well with what I wanted to do. And then because of that, I had to get in a left back. So I got Alex Moreno, 28. Again, not, none of those 3 are long term, and Dudu's already leaving. But yeah, I mean, usually it would just be as young as you can, as high potential as you can. And then, as Nick said, you just want to get the players that you can sell on in the future, which I found, Dudu was obviously hard, but I'm pretty happy with that. I've kind of packaged him together with a load of others to get Calvin Stengs in. So again, going back to the young players with potential and who are already good. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I've got myself set to that strategy. It's just what I want to do. And I mean, I'm only in 2 game worlds at the moment, and in the other one, I think the game world is kind of coming to an end. So I've been building for a long time in the Ash.
For no reason.
Yeah. And you obviously, I think you saw my team in there, the Fulham team I had, which was pretty much all youth, and I've now got rid of pretty much all of them, got in like Messi, Ronaldo, Lewandowski. So it's not something I've ever really done before, but yeah, I mean, I've just kind of thrown it all out there to go for it. But I don't think I'd ever do that in top 100, because it's kind of somewhere that, you want to build yourself, and you want to rise yourself with the players that you brought in as lower players, which is something I like to do. Yeah, I think quite similar to both of you in that regard.
So definitely a sort of strategy that might sort of change depending on how the sort of situation within the game world is. So obviously, like you say, like Ash is, to a point almost coming to an end in terms of dying a little bit and not being run properly. For me, 100%, like you did the right thing. You've almost like gone, do you know what? Let's get the ratings in. Let's win everything. Yeah. Obviously, you got to back it up now, of course. And
yeah. See how that goes.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I'd say like all game wise, you've got a particular approach. I think obviously, would you both agree that Top 100 has got a particular market that is sort of more youth orientated, and therefore you have to compete within it and have to try and be better within it because of how like it actually works as a market? I'll put out to that.
Yeah, no, I would say so.
I mean, I think I've not really been, as I say, in too many other game worlds. The Ash doesn't really have a huge amount of activity, so over there it's quite easy to pick up the new youths and everything. So, I mean, compared to there, yeah, definitely. But I can't really speak on a broader kind of spectrum there. So,
no, I definitely think that there is a sort of trend within the game world in general, and I think more and more managers keep buying into it. I think we've had a bit of a change maybe since a couple of episodes ago in Top 100 TV, where we did discuss more so like the older players, the ratings making a difference on that level. Maybe the contract stuff has sort of like bled into that a little bit in terms of encouraging people to sort of act differently in the market. But I would definitely say that it's sort of like an enforced market. I think we're sort of put in a position where you can't not compete in it, because if you don't compete in it, you're going to fall by the wayside. You're going to struggle.
I think one of the key factors would be balance. If you were going with older players, you need to have a balance. Yeah. If you just go pure ratings, then you fuck yourself or you do yourself over. You need to go like if you're going to bring in older players, you have to balance it out with having good players that are behind them or sellable. Otherwise, you're just going to end up with a dead club.
Yeah,
and it's going to make them not appealing to yourself or the next person. And I think that I would imagine if someone leaves a team in an awful position, there would be no chance they would be able to get a step up or anything like that. I'm sure that would be interjected by the admin or the panel behind manager selections.
Yeah, obviously you said like earlier, like 28 and up is almost like dead now.
Yeah. But the thing is, I think that's the way in most game worlds nowadays, though. Like you'll see it, for example, I've been in Gold Championship 1 for 5 years, real life years, and if you don't have any young players and you got nothing, and I took over a Hibernian side where the best player was Grant Hull, so it was a slog and a half. It was, I'm not gonna lie to you, and the team we have now is it's actually quite a nice team, to be honest. Like really good young players like Lamptey and James Justin and Drakowski and players like that. So you have to know what you're doing in there, otherwise you'll end up with a team where you're just buying random 83s that aren't going to go anywhere.
Yeah, no, 100%. Sort of moving on to more specific to Top 100 then. Obviously we did have a question that came from the sort of like from Beddoes, in fact, this one. He reckons that Pepe to Sampdoria was the best transfer in the current window, which we all know is just absolute rubbish. But yeah, you had to pick out a transfer that like really stood out in the sort of season 15, season 16 like end and start period. Is there any sort of transfer you went actually like that's class, like that's a great move? That
for me, I think one that stands out as a big one is Neymar to Chelsea. Just because, coming from Barcelona, who just won the league, I think he had 29 assists last season. I'm pretty sure it was a big multi deal, but that signing as a player going to that club is obviously massive. And at the moment, you can see the difference in the two at the start of the season already. So I think you and Chelsea are both on 15 now, and I think Barca on 8. No, I might have made that up. But yeah, it's a big move from two of the top clubs.
With the Neymar one, is it not a problem that he's 29?
Yeah, not got long left.
No, I know what you mean. Mine was your transfer for Pedri.
Yeah.
Like you gave up a player. Like, don't get me wrong, Serge Milinkovic-Savic is a good player. Lazio are an average team in Italy. They're nothing spectacular, and I think he's at his peak at 92, and I think Pedri will be at 92 at the right time, because pivotal. He's going to be I think he's going to be the next generational Xavi and Iniesta type at Barcelona, where he stays there for a long time and just develops and grows. And by the time he's 21, he'll probably be a 92, and you'll be laughing whilst Milinkovic-Savic is a 90 playing for some mid-tier Italian side or moving anywhere else. So that for me, but that's the type of transfer I would do. Like, I don't care about ratings. I would, if that was offered to me, I would have done that deal hands down. I wouldn't have even thought about it.
Yeah, like for me on that perspective, obviously being a deal I sort of did, like I did feel the same in terms of Pedri's got that potential and I had to like bring it in. Like there's certain players that evidently I sort of have targeted quite recently and in the last few years, and Pedri's one where I think, you know what, every time I've watched him, you just don't give away the ball. Like there's certain players, if you play at a big club and you've got something about you which everyone takes notice of, the fact that he played 72 games last year, wherever it was, and never gave the ball away, like, okay, we've got a player here. Like he was 17, 18 last year. Yeah, like, you can take a risk on that. There's
a reason. Yeah, like he was so good for Las Palmas as well before, but even went to Barcelona. He was going through the ranks there very quickly. Like he played for the Primera team at like the age of 15, which is like mad. And he's a very good player. And if you can get players like him and Vert, those are two type of top tier. And then you've got like players like Camavinga who are going to be there, I think. But I think it'll take a little while for him to step up. But I know he scored on his debut. But it'll take a little while for him to. Yeah, I think it'll still take him a little while. And then you got your like Mason Greenwoods and that sort of level, which I still think he's got a lot of English hype personally, but that's just me. Being glad to see him. He could be the next Ravel Morrison, or he could be, the next David Beckham. It could go either way. So it's all about risk as well. There's risk and reward. Like if you take the risk on buying those players, then you hopefully get the reward. If not, you can end up with like a Maura Kurlon of all those years ago, or Freddie Adu, or Alexandra Pato, who never really did anything with their potential. They sort of just deteriorated. So it's a risk and reward. Like you've taken that risk, you could end up looking like an idiot if he gets like a leg breaking injury and never comes back from it. But it's very unlikely at this rate.
No, I like the fact already so far you've dug out two players at West Brom as well. So, I agree with them. We're getting a bit of stick there. So, no, do you know what? For me, like almost like controversial to what you've said so far, but like I think maybe not the best single deal, but the best business definitely for me was Barcelona. Like I just think that he's added such more depth to that squad in the higher ratings. Like on paper, when you put the 11 against 11, that squad now is like a level above all others. I'm fairly sure it's like 0.5 above like a Chelsea in terms of a rating point for the 11. It's like a whole rating point above Juve. Like he's gone and brought in another like left back at 93 and Robertson. Obviously he's added in older players with big ratings, and I think that's maybe now where it's come into a sort of sticky point in terms of that squad now is quite old. Do you think that squad's eventually going to have problems because of the ages that are coming into it, or do you think that actually there's enough talent and quality in the ratings there that actually he can probably work his way eventually, like in the market, to sort of transfer his way out of it but still be competitive, or do you think he's going to fall off like the wayside?
I think it's a tricky one. You look at, I think Bayern I think were when they were champions, but their team was really old and they've kind of dropped off now. There's always a kind of risk of that, and I think at Barca there's kind of a spread of ages where some of them will fall off quite quickly potentially, whereas others could still be there. So I don't think it's going to be quite as immediate. But then the trouble is, being Barca, there's only a handful of teams that you can deal with who are going to help improve or maintain the level that you've got. And those type of teams aren't going to want, a 30, 35-year-old Ramos coming in. So it's going to be, interesting to see. But I mean, at this point, that's what he's got to go for. Go for winning the title again, defending his title. So the ages don't really matter, in my opinion, for him at the moment.
Yeah. Nick, anything different to add on that?
No, I'd agree with the fact that there might not be many people that will want those. There's only a select few deals you could do realistically, unless you sacrifice one whole rating for like one asset that you think is going to be really good. That someone might buy it on that, but I doubt it. But I think Barcelona have got a few players behind that are actually quite decent. Like you got Goncalves, who could become something good. If he leaves, it could be the next Bruno Fernandes, or again, he could be not. There's a lot of rumour that he is, but I've watched him play a few times. He does look really good, but it's all about that next move, I guess. And then you've got Tomori, McKinney, and players like that are okay. They're not. I wouldn't write home about them. They're not the best. But I mean, I would love to have them at Shakhtar because they're much better than what I've got. But they're not. They're not world beaters that are going to get you a big fee. Even Felix isn't the player that they spent all that money on. I don't think. Like he's not. He's a player that now they can't really sell because they're not going to get anywhere near back. Like in real life, Atletico Madrid needs to sell him. Realistically, he needs to go to another club where he fits their style of play. And he's not going to get that because they're never going to recruit that amount of money and it'd make him look like a right tits if they spent 170 million and then loaned him out. But he doesn't fit Simeone's style of play at all. He's not an Atletico player in that formational setup. That's why like Luis Suarez, who's a finisher, thrives because they build up to him and then he gets the goals. Whereas Felix is a runner and likes to dribble and be skillful. But I mean, someone will still bite on him because it's João Felix and he's 21 and 91. So you could sell him for a couple of good players like assets. I'm sure Nuno would bite for him because he loves his Portuguese players, and so he'll probably bum him and try and get him.
No, definitely. I think two other clubs and deals that stood out for me. I think the signing of Andre Silva for Sporting was one that stood out in terms of obviously he's just had the real life move to Leipzig. I think that he's a player that's not really hit the heights yet that he probably could have done, but I think he's got all the chance now to sort of maybe go to that like 92, 93 level. Just with that sort of Leipzig move being a sort of positive one for him.
Yeah.
And another club that sort of stood out for me was Napoli. I think Glenn's going to mix the team up there in terms of ages and things, but that's a club where, do you know what I said? He's done a lot of business, but like they're now in like a really good position to threat this season to maybe go up.
Yeah, I had them. I mean, I wrote out quite a few notes before. I had Napoli down as, for D3. I was trying to pick one best transfer, and I just put Napoli down because, they're older players, but it's clearly working. He's had a really good start to the season, and I think he's done a lot with the team. It's been a really tough job from where he started. But I certainly think this season they look strong, and as I say, I think they're top of the league at the moment, so it's clearly working. And I think he got in 3 90 plus players, so for a D3 team that's fantastic. So yeah, I agree that that's massive for them.
Yeah, 100%. Nick, has anyone else in sort of other divisions stood out at all, or any particular transfers maybe?
I mean, like I said, there was probably quite a few before I come, because obviously I came late into the season, realistically, in season 15. But I mean, like I said, in terms of actual transfers, I think Chelsea, they're always quite shrewd in the market. They bring in some good assets. I mean, they took one from me in Marvin Bard, but I got like 3 back, in my opinion. But I think they've done well with some of their acquisitions. Obviously, they signed Neymar, like you say. That's obviously a huge transfer for them. And I don't really think they paid an awful lot, really, in terms of sellable players on. Like, their players they sold were probably at, like Kroos and that aren't going to get much for him nowadays. But I wouldn't say that in particular there's any one transfer that stood out. I think obviously Napoli are doing really well, but looking at their team, I personally wouldn't like to look at that team every day. I wouldn't like to log in and look at it. But and the three players I have over 91, isn't it? Like Douglas Costa, João Moutinho, and something else, something like that. I mean, yeah, all good and well having them now, but I mean, Douglas Costa pays. No, not Douglas Costa. Is Douglas Costa? I don't know who they've got. They've got someone like that. It's like they're like 91s that aren't going to be 91s so much longer. But I mean, each their own. If he wins the title, then he's laughing. So I mean, that's a nice accolade to have, and people remember that Napoli won it, and they won't remember what squad they had.
No, so. Do you think that's maybe part of the reason why he's gone for this particular build? Do you think he's gone for players that are going?
Oh yeah. I mean, everyone wants to have their name on that. Everyone wants to have their name on that banner for a season on the blog. I mean, that would be the dream. But having your name up there in that nice little edit, and then in the Hall of Fame, I'm in there somewhere in the Hall of Fame. I've won a few things back in the day. It's nice, like when you look back, and oh, that's me. So people remember that as well, and they won't not necessarily remember that he had João Moutinho captaining his team to the league, but people remember that he won it.
No, I agree. Anyone else to mention, sort of lower down the leagues, maybe?
I think for Division 4, I've got Martial going to Lille. I think he paid, what was it, like Dolberg and something, 288s for a 91 in D4. I mean, it's a massive player to have. It's in a key position. He can play all up the front. So I think that one really stood out to me. And then as well, Van der Beek going to Sao Paulo, a 91 in D5. So again, I mean, they're big ratings, but, you know, lower down. I think they both got them for pretty cheap deals. I think actually they both came from Roma. So, I mean, Roma obviously have a plan, but I think both of them got really good deals for two high-rated players who will make a big difference.
Yeah, 100%. I think that for Lille in Division 4, like them bringing in, I think Campos was the other one as well that they brought in. So they brought in like two strong 91 rated players, like two big hits in the league, and Sao Paulo, of course, as well. Like that team now in Division 5, like is so strong. Like it looks very good. It should be like even like a Division 3 sort of level side. So you'd like to think the results will eventually follow and they'll climb up the league. And Scott's obviously proven that he's a shrewd manager over the time as well. So.
What I would say is, if you look at those sales from Roma, it kind of seems like they've just gone off of, obviously, Donny van der Beek can't get off the bench, and Man United and Martial's basically rendered useless with Ronaldo and Cavani and Rashford and Greenwood and all the options they've got. He's probably like 5th, 6th choice. So, I mean, I don't think they're players that are going to drop anytime. I mean, like maybe Donny could go 90. But Martial is still in the French setup from time to time, so I think those are two sales where Roma have gone, fuck it, they're not playing very well.
Yeah,
just get rid of them.
Dolberg and Castillejo. I don't know his name. For Martial though, it's a bargain for Lille, I think. Like
very much so. But there's nothing more to it. If that's it, then yeah, it's a really poor deal for Roma. Like Castillejo doesn't even get in the Milan team.
Yeah, that exactly.
Yeah. Just on that then, like a sort of little side note, how much would you always like research into the real life versus what current ratings are? Is there like actually a bit of a debate in terms of, I think they're going to be 91 and they're going to stay 91 for 6 months, and that means they've got a full season of that rating at least? Or does the fact that having two 88s, 89s that, you know, like let's say for example, one was playing a lot more than the 91 currently, would that mean that the sort of like the two lower rated players would be more to your preference because of that sort of ability to maybe rise, whereas the other player at 91 might fall? Or would you prefer to have the rating now and know it's going to be solid for a while?
I think based on kind of what I said about how I build at the moment, Leicester, we're low and I'm trying to peak at the same time. So depending obviously who the players are, the lower guys, if it's two guys that I think are going to keep rising, I'd probably go for the two 88, 89s. But obviously they'd need that potential. I wouldn't have done that Martial deal. But like if it was two 88s who I thought were going to hit 90, then, you know, yeah, I probably would have taken that.
I think with the ratings that are going to drop as well, it all comes down to timing. So, for example, if you know when the next review is, so the next big league review is in Christmas, or December time, January maybe. So if you can get someone who's going to be a 91 until then, or a 90 till then, and sell them beforehand because the transfer ban will be up before, then definitely if it's going to be a short-term fix, and you feel like you could probably get a decent fee for them. But yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like if I have a 91, 92 that's not going to go any further, and I can get two 88s or an 87 and 88 that are going to be 90s themselves and a bit younger in the next couple of reviews, I would be much more in favour of that. But I just think that's not that deal at all. It's just an average 88 in Dolberg that's never really lived up to the hype since he left Ajax. Yeah. And Castillo, who was never very good at Villarreal and hasn't really done very much at Milan either. For a player who's still going to get minutes at Man United, and if you get minutes at Man United, you're still going to keep it 91.
Yeah. And I guess at the end of the day, they did pay like something like 100 million almost over the time for Martial. Like it's a big deal in the end. Like they're not going to just throw him away for nothing. So
absolutely. And it only takes him to get like he's still quality, like a good player. Like there's still a player there, so he could get the right move and play somewhere. And there's no reason why you couldn't again.
Yeah. Final like sort of question in this sort of area for like this sort of transfer thing, because a little bit cautious of time. Is there any deals that really stood out that you did do over this sort of period, and is there any deals where you think actually I should have pushed harder to make it happen because of maybe what's happened since in real life, or maybe somebody else got them for a bargain? Any sort of deals you're sort of happy you got or annoyed that you didn't get?
I think for me, Yusuf Demir stands out that I got. And I mean, at the time, it was a really tricky one because I ended up giving Sander Berge, Arribas, and Martin, who I think was a free agent that I picked up. Yeah. And for me, the big thing was Napoli were like almost confirmed to have Berge. So for me, I was like, oh my God, it's a tricky one. Again, like we were just talking about the rating versus the potential. And, looking back at it now, the transfer fell through and Berge is at Sheffield United. So, I think if I hadn't done that, I would be absolutely gutted now. But yeah, and I think Demir's got a lot of potential. If he breaks into the Barca team starting, then he could skyrocket, and he's already shown a lot of ability, a lot of potential. So yeah, he could be a key player for me for a long time, hopefully.
Nick, anything transfer wise? I think you're on mute. I think you've muted yourself.
As you can, I mean, I'm probably best on mute, to be honest. People probably prefer it, to be honest. But the reason I keep muting is because I'm actually eating my dinner. I went straight from work. I finished work late and then went straight to football and then come back and I was like, I'm starving. And then the food came whilst we were doing the video. So I was just like, so every now and then I'm just doing this because I don't want to like eat on the screen and just be like numbing down on food. But yeah, no, we've done a lot of transfers at Shakhtar and I'm pretty pleased with all of them. There's none that I passed up really that I think to myself, oh, I should have done that. There's a few where, I mean, not realistically, I wouldn't have done them in another circumstance, but I think that in the deals we've done, like, for example, the one I've done that I'm really happy with is I sold Stanislav Lobotka because he was an 88, and to be honest, he's pretty shit. And we sold him for Jacob Moda, who plays for Brighton and Poland, starts for Poland and plays quite regularly for Brighton, and I think he'll progress. And then the one I really liked in that deal was Justin Chi, who I'm really pleased to have because he was on loan at Bayern Munich last year from Dallas. And Bayern Munich pushed hard to get him in the summer window, but they didn't get him permanently. But they're trying to get him again, and they're going to go back in January and try and convince Dallas to sell him to them. And the last time someone at 17 who was a solid fullback left the MLS for Bayern Munich was Alphonso Davies. So, I mean, I'm not saying that he's going to be that level, but all I will say is that there's a lot of ability there in Justin Chi. And so those two players, for someone like Lobotka, who is a reserve at Napoli, who's pretty average and has a weird looking face and haircut as well, it made the deal even more sensible. And when I counted it, I thought he was going to reject it. And then I logged in like an hour later and it said accepted. I was like, fair play. I was like, I'll take that all day long.
Happy days. I thought that was a good deal, to be fair. I think I saw the potential in that Chi as well. I think there's quite a few of these youngsters from MLS coming through at the moment, and I do think that's maybe a market to gamble on a little bit. You can sort of look for those sort of youngsters coming in.
Yeah, I
gambling.
Yeah, I definitely did that with External as well, right? So I took on Tessman from External, who's now moved to Venezia in Serie A. Only takes him to have a good season. And he'll kick on from there. And then Pomykal as well, I signed. He's a US international. You look at players like Reynolds, has gone to Roma. He's getting to game time. You look at Davis, who went to Bayern Munich from where he did Vancouver. And I watched him play live, Alphonso Davies, in the MLS in New York. And my gosh, when he was on the pitch, I was like, he's way too good for the MLS. And he was so quick. He's making, obviously, they've got a lot of old players there. So he was just running past them. And they were just like, yep, he's gone. It was actually mad. And but yeah, like I say, it's a market, and there's a lot of players external that are young in the MLS that aren't being bought, and that's why I took a risk on a couple of them for some squad space. Why not? And then a couple of them moved to Europe and Italy, and who knows, if they do half decent, we'll get a nice rise in the winter review, and then it might be a sellable player.
Yeah, and it's worth that risk, especially when you've got a 50-man cap. I think that's
exactly.
Times we've got 50 players, you only play 11, there's 18 or whatever in your squad. You can take a risk on a lot of players, and actually, if you've got a 25-year-old that's 86 rated, that's not going anywhere in his career, why would you not bid him off and try and bring in someone that might be a level above eventually?
Exactly.
And that's
similarly with the MLS, I got in Busio last season. I can't remember who. Somebody sold him external 18, rated 78 at the time, and I think only 3 or 4 of us bid. And I remember when I got him, in the comments, people were like, "How was he external?" And again, he's now moved to
Venezia as well.
Yeah, so I agree. You know, I've got quite a few on my shortlist that I'm kind of looking at, waiting for my deals to go through, and I'll open up four squad spots because I'm at 50 at the moment. So you guys might have just ruined that for me, but
yeah, everyone's now logging in and having a look for US.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've got quite a few Americans in my team actually, because I've got Dunze as well, who's the young Leicester keeper. Yeah, because you don't need a really sub keeper, do you? And he looks quite nifty, and he's been called up to the US team already. 18. I mean, they give young players a chance, and they play in international football, so I mean, it's only going to be good for them.
No, I think 100% that the US team's only going to get better and better. You got a lot of sort of good players coming through, making it to new heights as well in terms of like bigger levels. So 100% great market to look for. On the youth thing, one of the questions that we had come through as well was, do you believe that any youths in top 100 are sort of like massively overpaid for? I kind of feel like this was maybe a sort of dig at youths over the prices I've paid for some of the youths out there, to be honest. But do you think that some are overpaid for massively, or do you think it's actually worth investing in when almost, I wouldn't say clearly, because no one knows if anyone's going to be a talent, you can get an injury, your career can be over very quickly. Like Hudson-Odoi, this horror injury, we've not seen much of him for 2 years, but do you think that the prices that are paid for youth players are actually like fair and like what they should be?
I mean, I think personally, yeah. I mean, it's tricky to tell because all three of us kind of go for youth anyway, so we obviously value the youth. But I mean, looking back at some of the big youths at the moment, looking at what was paid, Luis Alberto and Correa for Haaland a couple of years ago is now like a bargain for Haaland. For Haaland, it's an absolute bargain, isn't it? And then, I mean, I picked up Tonali for Ben White, who, I mean, that's kind of reverse actually, because, you know, Ben White was 86 and Tonali was not 89. But then even Camavinga, you know, he's kind of, last season he had that drop in value almost, and now he's gone to Real Madrid. So even though there was that kind of bit where everybody was like, I told you so, it was all hype, he's now got that big move. And again, yeah, so I don't know, it's always going to be hard to judge, but I think it's worth betting on youth if you're giving up kind of okay players that have already peaked and aren't going to get any better. So yeah, I mean, I'd always back that.
Yeah. Do you think, for example, paying a 93 for an 85 when there's only 7 years of age difference between them is worth doing, or do you think that's just taking it too far? Because 93, like, there's only 40 players in the whole of Soccer Manager that are 93 plus rated.
Yeah, I mean, I think
depends who it is, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say depends on your team, depends who you've got as backup, and depends who the youth is. So,
sure.
Yeah. Like, I would probably swap Luka Modric for Brendan Aronson.
Yeah.
Like, just because Luka Modric is going to the end, and Brendan Aronson, I think, is going to go to Leipzig from Salzburg and be amazing.
I think the one that you're referring to is Dybala for Musiala.
Musiala, yeah.
I would do that as well, to be honest.
Yeah, I was going to say the same. I mean, you know, he's not
being funny, but I don't even know how Dybala's still a 93.
Yeah.
Dybala is nothing special at all. Like,
by the end of the
you
season,
can tell me what you want. You can tell me what you want about him, but I don't think Dybala. He's got an attitude problem. It's clear. He's not as good as everyone makes him out to be. But I would mean, obviously in my position now, if someone offered into the team I am, but if I was a team with someone like Dybala and could get Musiala, I would be all over that. Look at him. Look at him the other night. He come on for Bayern and he was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could easily be 90 by the end of the season, I reckon. I mean, he's incredible. And
that was almost like I was manipulated to a sense, like, and I'm sure you've been there with some of the squads you've both got in other game worlds where sometimes these concerns are actually becoming a problem and you actually have to change the way you do things slightly. And that's where I think like paying for youth also is a situational thing. You sometimes just have to like deal with what's in front of you in terms of I can either have loads of players with concerns and not play half of them, or I can gamble on a youngster. So that's where I think like an inflated price is actually
also hype can get you a very long way, because I mean Matthijs de Ligt is a 92 rated and he is no good. I know you've got him, but he is nowhere near a 92 player. He's a good player, but he's nowhere near a 92. That one season with Ajax, like SM just like basically bummed Ajax one review and just gave them all 91s and 92s, like Ziyech and Tadic and De Ligt and Donny van der Beek, and obviously Frankie de Jong probably does warrant it now. He's doing well, but De Ligt, I mean, he's not a bad defender at all. He's not a bad player, but I think realistically, if they hadn't have hyped him, he'd probably still be 90 rated.
Yeah. No, I agree. I actually don't think he can defend very well. I think he's good at passing the ball out and being a ball playing centre half, and that's apparently what everyone likes to watch these days. But as a defender in Serie A, where it's all about defenders that can defend well, like he's getting away with
All
that.
I'm saying is, at the moment, he doesn't play as much as Chiellini and Bonucci, who are like 120 between the two of them. And the Serie A is a slow-paced league. It's not a fast-paced league. If you're fast in that league, then you're going to be set. But like, he's not. I don't really know. I think maybe if he moved to Barca, things might have been a bit different, perhaps. But I just don't think. I don't think like hype. It's like I say, hype can get players anywhere, really.
It's interesting. Interesting with that as well, that he's now rated higher than both of them, even though they're both still playing regularly and playing better than him. But he's got the rating and they don't. Again, it's kind of the Soccer Manager downgrading people just for being old, which doesn't really make sense. And
also, I feel like they probably wouldn't downgrade De Ligt because there would be too much licking their own wounds because they fucked up. And like also like the last Premier League review, how Hudson-Odoi got a +1, I still don't know to this day.
No.
Like, what did he do? Like put his shin pad on well or something? And they're like, yep, 88. Like literally not like so the hype. Like he got a hype link to Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich, but he never made the move. So like hype can get you like a nice extra +2 or 3, and then SM won't downgrade unless they don't like to admit mistakes. Really, it has to be over a time frame. So you could probably sell them on before that happens. Yeah. But yeah, like
I would say that's a good dynamic to have to think about when it comes to the transfers as well. Is like almost like, is there a social media hype in real life, and therefore that's going to influence Soccer Manager and the ratings and the people behind them simply because of, like you say, hype like rules it all. If a player's hyped up that much just because they're young, they're not going to drop too much because they've still got an 8-year career ahead of them. So why would I drop them now when they might actually still hit that potential? So
yeah, like for example, no, he's not hype at all because he is a beast. But like Haaland, in the space of like a year, went from like 85 rated to 93.
Yeah,
it just goes to show it can happen. Like you could Musiala, it only takes him to start scoring and playing every game for Bayern Munich, and there's no reason he would actually win things. Like Haaland hasn't even won anything.
Yeah. I actually turned down a deal today. I sort of chased it myself initially at the start of the season to get Gnabry in. Came back today and had the offer to take him, and I turned it down because I thought if his back problem gets worse in terms of the injury he picked up this week and Musiala plays every week, I'll have a 93 in Musiala.
All I'm going to say is I don't think that now if Musiala plays as he is, there's no way that Gnabry gets back in because Sane has not been very good since he moved to Bayern Munich, let's be honest. He was quality for Man City, but he hasn't been as good. But even then, he started scoring some goals and playing back to the way he was when he was leaving Man City. And I think between them and Lewandowski and the options they have, to be honest, Choupo-Moting scores goals for Bayern Munich, so I don't know what that says. So I'm sure that Gnabry will get a chance again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't be giving up Musiala for even in a straight swap for Gnabry if I were you.
No, that wasn't the deal. It was a different deal, but like that was my thinking behind it, in terms of why would I take another Bayern Munich player when I've got Musiala as good.
Yeah.
So moving on slightly onto transfer windows. So this was sort of mentioned in the comments and asked to sort of be sort of discussed here. Do you think transfer windows could be positive? Do you think there should be maybe a transfer window just for free agents? So sort of two questions into one. Do you think that maybe we can have like a month period where that's the only time you can sign anyone added to the database? Or do you think generic transfer windows all around would be good at all?
No.
No?
No, I think transfer windows just kill the game world. I've been in a couple and it's a pretty... There's not much to the game anyway. There's transfers and there's tactics. So, you take away the transfers for 90% of the season. What have you got left? You've got nothing. And, a lot of people don't want to do pre-agreed deals in case something happens down the line. So every deal having to be pre-agreed, I think, would kill the market. as well. I think in terms of the free agents as well, I don't really know how it would work. I mean, everybody would still have the same amount of chance of getting somebody. You know, it's not like the smaller teams will suddenly have a boost there. So yeah, no, I don't think any of that makes any real sense.
No, I agree. I don't like transfer market. We have transfer windows. One, because I like to do a lot of deals, as everyone knows. And two, it can hinder clubs because it only takes you to sign someone and then you can't sell him for like God knows how long, and he might get like an injury or he might not be as good as when you bought him, and then you lose value. Like whereas if you sell someone while they're hot, and that's always the best time to do it. And if you get like, not many people will always want to do pre-agreed deals because there are some people that can do it to perfection. Like I make a lot of pre-agreed deals in some very busy game worlds, so I manage it on like a spreadsheet that I have. But some people won't be able to do that and they'll forget, or they'll do like a pre-agreed deal and then forget. I'm pretty sure it's happened in this game world before in the past where someone's pre-agreed a player and then they've sold them somewhere else, and then the manager's been like, "What the fuck is that? Like, why have you done that for?" So you have to then rely on 100 people, being reliable enough to do that. Which realistically, they're probably. So there'll be a whole hoo-ha for you guys as well in like the panel that you'd be like, "Well, we're fucked up here because no one's keeping to it." So just make it a lot more hassle for you and make the game work not strong.
I think following on from that as well. Oh, sorry. As you say, you know, flipping players is something that small teams have to do. It's something that I've done at Leicester, and you know that's the best way to improve. If you buy a team and then you have to stick with them for the whole season almost, then you know it's going to be borderline impossible to improve.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't think it benefits again the small teams. And then on top of that, I'm not 100% sure how the transfers work. I'm not sure how they work with the transfer window. But you know, you could bid for 300 players, have all of them accepted, and then further down the line, before the transfer window opens and they all get completed, you could cancel them as you can see how the players are doing. If you get what I mean.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if that's actually something that could happen, but you know, it popped into my head. You know, if you just bid on 300 youths from across the top 5 leagues, and then 4 of them happen to start playing, you've then already got a bid accepted on them, and nobody else can have any interest. So, I think it's kind of there could be a lot of issues with it.
Yeah, I think like one of the biggest issues that might come from it is the fact that you get like squads going over the cap a lot as well. Like if there's a free agent window and everyone starts bidding on these free agents, someone will like accidentally win 4 when they've only got 2 spots, and then they'll be over, and it'll just be like hectic.
And
like,
you can do that. You can bid on a player before like the window closes, and then it'll be accepted, and then it won't complete until the window opens again.
Yeah.
No. So yeah, I agree 100%. Transfer windows, no for me as well. I don't really see any positives from it, and 100%, like you say, there's a lot of small clubs that have to be busy in the market, and there's probably not enough that are busy enough, in my opinion. I think it's a bigger negative for the game world to do it. One thing that was mentioned was wage caps. So my perspective quickly was that wage caps are literally just squad caps. Because if you have a wage cap, you're going to limit yourself to X amount of players. Because let's say Barcelona have a wage cap of 2 million a week or whatever, and their squad's worth 2.4 a week in the like wages. Like what they aren't realistically going to sell Messi because that'll bring them under. They're going to keep Messi, so that means they're going to sell 10 players and then they'll be on 40. So I didn't really see where there would be any positive from a wage cap. But if you guys have got any different thoughts, then that'd be great to hear. Nick, do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you on that. I don't think anyone would sell. No, I'll just sell Messi. But no, I don't get why anyone would sell. No, they would have to sell more, and it'd be a squad cap. But realistically, I personally don't feel like any team needs 50 players. But you know, it's a cap in the game world, so I'm not going to moan. I'm going to buy 50 players. But I think realistically, you could probably narrow it down to like 36 players, and obviously open up a lot more of the market for a lot of other teams, and still have enough players to develop a team and have a nice squad, have 3 teams and a few extras for whatever reason you need that many. But yeah, realistically as well, like I don't really understand what wage cap would do, because I mean I've got like 400 million in the bank at Shakhtar. I could put like a wage, I could just buy every old fucker there is and have the highest wage in the world, and I still wouldn't be in a minus. for
Yeah.
not for a very long time, for not like 6 real life years, and had the same team. So I don't think it would actually bring any benefit whatsoever. I mean, all it would do maybe is release some players, like you say, maybe. But also there'll be there'll be some people that won't be able to keep track of it, and then you'll forget how much wages you've got, or people won't be good at maths and not be able to add up what they'll be spending a week, or be able to look at the page and check. And then you've got to monitor that as well. And that's just something that's probably not easy to monitor or quite monotonous to keep doing. So I wouldn't imagine it would be beneficial in any way.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I don't really know how you'd make it fair. I mean, obviously Division 1 would have a higher cap anyway, so it's not like you can't have a blanket cap for the whole game world, because it just doesn't work. Like you say, Messi would take up the whole cap of half the teams probably. But I also think it kind of again inhibits teams that want to rise. If you've got a young team like mine, they're going to rise quite quickly. If my rise through the leagues doesn't match that, I'm then going to be punished for that, for putting together like a team that is rising. And then similarly, I feel like it kind of limits how you can build a team. You can either have a big young team or a small old higher rated team kind of thing. There's not really as much flexibility. And I also think you could get not blackmail, but you'd be looking at another team and you'd say, oh, you need to get in the cap for next season, so your 89 has to leave. So I'm not going to pay as much for him. If you get what I mean, similar kind of examples to that. Like, you're over the cap, you need to get under it for next season. So yeah, I think there could be again a lot of issues, and then a lot of admin that you guys have to kind of handle.
Yeah, definitely.
There's far too many admin problems with it. I think like if there was teams or with like a 2 million cap and then a 1.5, it'd be like you'd always have to check things. Like every transfer, you almost have to check. Like, have they gone over the wage cap? I think the good point you made, Doug, was almost like if a team's got loads of risers but they were on the wage cap or they're just below it, as soon as all of them rise, they're going to go over it, and then they're being punished for having risers for being positive with squad building. Like, you're literally positive sort of actions in the game world. So. Yeah, again, for me, that was one I didn't really see where the positives were for it, and sort of glad you both agree with that. I mean, we might have a biased opinion because we're all squad builders that like to build in a particular way, so perhaps that's why. But yeah, 100% for me, that was a bit of a no-go. On the transfer side of thing, when it comes to negotiating deals with managers, so slightly different subject again now, do you think there's a problem when managers just reject straight away? In terms of like, are they killing their ability to get a deal done by just point blank rejecting? How do you react to a point blank sort of reject? Like, would you then message them? Do you think it's always worth them negotiating? Like, where do you think it falls with almost like dealing in a particular way? Do you think there's any benefit to sort of actually going point blank reject and saying, do you know what, I actually think that this is going to make them come back to me and I'm going to get a better deal because of it? Like, how do you act in those situations?
I would say personally, like, obviously always try and negotiate if you can, but there also be players that you don't want to sell. So just like if they message you, I don't want to sell that player. Obviously every player realistically has their price, but there's probably players that you'd want to hold on. Like, for example, if I had like Declan Rice, the person could offer me a chance to have a go with their wife and everything else on top, and I still wouldn't say yes. So it would take a lot. So I mean. You need to balance it, but obviously at the same time, like, there's people that have rejected deals from me, and then I've messaged them and said, look, these are the players I like from your team. I've got where you can have a look at my squad. Who would you like? And if they said I can't see a deal, then fair enough. But if they can, then you start negotiating, and then you make a deal from there. But I'll always, if someone makes me an offer, I'll always counter, like I did with, like I say, with that deal for Lobotka. The offer that was made to him originally was absolute shit, and then I just counted the 2 players I wanted from his team, and then he accepted. So I mean, there was no conversation there, but 9 times out of 10 there'll be a back and forth. Like, for example, me and Doug, when we was doing our deal, it was like a few days. Well, so I went missing a couple of days as well because I was away, but I was on holiday. But yeah, there was a lot of back and forth before we did the deal, and then you come to a conclusion. That's half the fun. Like, talking to people, like, not pestering their inboxes because that's just annoying, but like having conversations. No dig there, and but having like conversations and just opening up the door, and like, it's like I say, that's enjoyment in the game, negotiating and making deals. So, but like I say, if there might be players that you just don't want to sell.
Yeah, I think for me, if I get a bid, I'll always look at the other person's team and I'll say there's no one that I can see from your team that I would take for, like, Tonali, for example, or or I'd go back and say these are the guys I like. Is there anything you can do? I don't mind when a lot like my bids just get rejected, because I do. If I have a couple of players available, I will often just send out bulk bids on a lot of different players, just because a lot of people don't reply to PMs and they're not as active. So you actually have to get the bid in for them to reply. And I mean, yeah, a lot of them do get rejected, and every now and then one gets accepted. So yeah, I mean, I don't mind a rejection in that term, but if I message somebody, I would expect a reply saying no or yes, we can see this. So yeah. Yeah.
No, like for me, 100%, you've got to sort of try and be social, or as social as you can. I think Soccer Manager's obviously killed itself over the years in terms of taking things like the chat away and whatever else, but I'm sure a lot of people disliked it because they would just get bombarded every time they were online. But I definitely think the social side is where, like the game all comes into its own. You need to go and get the deals done, and you need to be in messages to do that. Definitely think that's the way to go. I definitely don't think enough managers do utilise it, or at least try. I think like when you're maybe a Division 1 club, I'll probably receive less offers than a lot of teams in the sort of mid to like low sort of ranks, because the ratings are all sort of like the same around Division 4 or 5, even into 3. So maybe that's where there's more offers, PMs and things. But
what I would say as well with that is that you'll always have to, like, if you're new to a game world, you need to find out what sort of players managers like, because that's how you find out as well, by making bids and finding out, like, if someone, for example, like if you bid for a youngster and give someone a rating, like you can typically look at their squad and maybe that's tell. Like if someone's got a team full of old players, then I'd be more inclined to offer them old players and be like, well, and then Indeed said it as like, oh, you've got a nice rating you can add into your team, and obviously that guy's not going to be in a team anywhere near for a while, and that's how you negotiate. But yeah, I mean, that's also, you'll get a feeling for the market when you first get into a game world. Obviously, I came in after being out for like 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons or whatever it is. I left Aston Villa ago 5, 6 seasons ago, whatever it was, and the market was completely different then to it is now. Like, it was obviously still driven by younger players, but it was different. So it's all about getting a feeler for the market, making bids. Like you say, like, bulk. When I first got to Shakhtar, I made loads of bulk bids, most of which got rejected because, I mean, there probably wasn't very good offers. But you need to try your luck, and then one time out of 10 they might accept, and then you're like, lovely life. So.
No, 100%. Slight change in terms of, well, same sort of subject, but going on to Schalke, because Schalke are currently a team that are available in top 100. There's a chance we might be offering these out to our top 120 candidate from the sort of like subsidiary game world shortly. We're trying to see if anyone internally would take them on. If either of you were to take them on, what would you do with that squad? If you take a look at that squad, it's in Division 2. It's got a couple of 90s. It's quite, sort of level-headed in terms of ratings and by number. Are there good players in there? Like, what would you want to do with it?
I would do exactly what I've done with Shakhtar.
You need?
Yeah, I think looking at it, they're a good team, but I don't think they've quite got enough to kind of get up and then be stable. If they did get up. So I think you'd get rid of Schick for as much as you could. I'm sure you could get a good deal. He might have passed the window there after the Euros of the hype, as we spoke about earlier.
Yeah,
there's one or two kind of decent youngsters like Alvarez. That's about it I can see. Stevanovic. But yeah, I think I'd kind of just do similar to what I did with Leicester, kind of invest in the younger players, trade the higher guys for the younger guys, and then just go from there, go long term, and then see what you can get, because there are players that do have value there. I just don't think they're kind of stuck in a no man's land where they've not really got a future, but they've not really got the ability to challenge now. So yeah.
I would say I would do the same as what I've done where I am now too. Like, I mean, you could probably get a good deal for Stevanovic, because obviously he does technically play for Man City, and people will buy into that, even though he's on loan at Heerenveen, which could go either way. Like, could go Odegaard done all right there, but you'd have to take a relegation, I would say, and to rebuild. And realistically, you'd have to hope that then the committee would see that you're doing the right thing for the club and then give you the job back. Otherwise, you'd just fix the club for some other fucker to take and do. But yeah, I mean, the manager that was there previously should have sold Schick during the Euros. I would have done anyway. We would have got a nice, decent fee for him. And then even Jan Sommer is a quality goalkeeper, but he is 32. But you could play on the fact he's a solid 90 goalkeeper, so I might give you a decent younger goalkeeper, maybe 85, 86 in the youngster outfield as well. Yeah. But yeah, they've got a lot of players that could have made it that didn't, like Lemos and Till and Kumane, Jota, who's now ended up at Celtic on loan. Pukas is a decent player, but he's Union Berlin just gone there, and Union Berlin are a nice, tidy team, to be fair, progressing. But yeah, nothing too spectacular. But I mean, I wouldn't be in a rush to leave my team for them.
That's an interesting one, because obviously they're like Division 2 club. They've had a lot of history in Division 1. Maybe they just need someone to go in there and, like you say, like almost take a hit, say to the admin team, the panel, whoever it might be, like, we need to go in there, take a hit, maybe get relegated, but we're going to come back with sort of like the younger team. And
all I would say is they need someone like one of you guys. Not obviously, I know you wouldn't leave Juventus for them. Obviously, you'd be dumb. That's all I think you've had like a lobotomy if you did that. But what I would say is that it's a trend. Like, I mean, similar managers do a similar thing. So they had Andrew Kilios, right, and he was in Shakhtar before, and he missed the boat on a lot of players. There was a lot of players in the squad that I thought to myself, in the time he's been here, if he sold them at the right time, he could have got a decent deal and fixed his team. But he doesn't. You need someone who's actually going to go in there and do deals and actually fix the team. So, I mean, he sold me one of his best assets for cash. Just been out there. He sold me Buczka, who is now a Polish international, who moved to Genoa in the summer window for cash. I offered him players, and he was like, "Oh, I need to get space anyway." So he sold him to me for cash. And like, he's 74 rated, but that's just a naive look on it. Like, he's 74 rated now, but he scored on his Poland debut, played a full international 18, and moved to Serie A. So realistically, I've got a player in my hands now that could get a +6 or +8 and be 80, 82 by the next review. And an international, probably quite a few teams would line up to try and grab him from me. Yeah. So it's just naivety as well. They need a good manager who will go in there and know what he's doing and sell the players for the right deals.
Yeah. The irony of that one is I actually went through quite a few international games today, and I did look at him. So I just saw that you'd actually picked him up for cash, and I was like, surely that was part of a multi-deal. But there you go. You just got to sometimes. Right. We've just hit the hour mark, so cautious of time. Obviously, it's late now. If there's any other subjects you guys want to talk about, if not, we're going to finish on a quick fire, sort of 10-second answer, sort of subject area. Nothing to add?
No, nothing. Spoken more than enough.
Yeah. That's been class. Appreciate your time, and obviously it's been great to have you both on, because I think you've sort of been perfect to talk about transfers, because obviously you do a lot of them. You're sort of good at squad building and that. So we'll finish on this. We'll start. We'll go one by one. Nick, if you want to start first, always, and then Doug second. We'll fly through these questions. First one being, if you could sign one player for your team in top 100 right now, who would it be?
Declan Rice.
Ideally, Haaland. I mean, realistically, I'd like Saka.
Okay. If you could reverse one transfer completed in the current season or last season, whether it be for yourself or somebody else, who would it be?
Oh, that's hard. I would probably tell yourself to keep Paul Pogba.
Yeah, he's doing all right, hasn't
he? Yeah, he's done all right, and you sold him for a hyped job Dutchman and a really shit Welshman.
Yep.
I think for me, my deal last season, I brought in Ruggeri. I gave Lentz and Dorsch, who are now both playing well in the Bundesliga. At the time, I needed squad space. And I mean, to be fair, Ruggeri's playing for, I don't even know what they're called, Salah, whatever, in Serie A. And I think they've lost all of their games, like 4-0. But yeah, probably undo that one.
Okay. If you could pick any club in top 100 right now and pick a player, like that they should sign? Like, what club would it be, and who should they sign?
Well, that's a tough one. That is. I would say I would pick. Oh, that's tough. That is, because that's like the. Trying to think. If I was, let's just say, you in Venice, because you've got like all the assets. You've got all the assets. I would go out and give whatever the fuck you could from your team to get Haaland.
I've tried.
Like, I would give. If you had to, I'd give like a 6 for 1 and just get him. But obviously, you've probably tried that as well.
It's a pain.
But he's like the missing piece. You've got a lot of good assets there, but he would be the top notch.
Yeah, I've tried for about fucking 6 months to a year, or 2 years. Like, Mbappe, Haaland, either anyone? No. Doug.
I had just for Barca to go out and replace Felix, get a new cam. Like you said earlier, he's got great depth and like very consistent rating. And then Felix as a 91 at cam, I think, anyway, from what I looked at. So yeah, probably just a replacement for him.
Yeah, I actually don't know if he might have used Felix or might be using Felix for Son. I don't know if that was the deal.
Oh.
Is that wrong? Not too sure.
It's actually mad if you look back at Haaland's transfer history. Just May 2019, he moved from West Brom to Standard Liège in a deal that Standard Liège got at West Brom, the world elusive Nuno got fucking Matteo Mascaccio, who was an absolute shit piece. He wasn't even good then. And I'm not being funny, right? Nuno won't even watch this. Let's be realistic. Yeah. So he proclaims himself to be this god of scouting, and it's like his job. If it was your job to scout, whoever hired him as a scout and he'd done that deal for Haaland, they need to sack him right now because he is terrible.
Head him, let alone sack him. Fucking hell.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some of his deals over the years in top 100 as well. When I was there at Villa, and some of the offers he used to make me as well. And he is a terrible manager, a terrible human being. Anyway, carry on.
At least I'm not the only one that thinks that. If you could do any transfer to any club, who would it be? So it's basically the same question, to be fair. But if there was any transfer you think like that club need that player, straight up.
I mean, I just said some bad things about you, Nuno, but Declan Rice to Shakhtar Donetsk would be amazing.
Perfect, love it.
Yeah, probably similar. Just some top player like Saka for me to me. Hint, hint.
That's what I can do. You could transfer any manager to another club. Who would you transfer and to what club?
Nick Justice to Juventus.
Right, okay, coming from my head as well.
I don't know what his name was, but that guy that joined and came in and was like, "Oh, I've won all these trophies in this other game world," and then kept complaining. I'd put him at just the worst team we've got and just leave him there.
Yeah, I do remember him. He was at Bellend. I think we got him removed in the end. Or
realistically, maybe I'd put James McKenzie down in D5 at a good team to have a race off for the McKenzies back to D1. Not because I want James to leave Chelsea, just because I think that would be quite a good story.
I like it. Good shout. I'm sure many managers would be hoping that I would leave and go to someone dog shit down in D5 as well. So eventually, I'm sure it'll happen. But
we're not dog shit. Shakhtar have actually got quite a nice little build going on. If you fancy it, I'm joking.
Right, lads. Coming up to an hour and 10. I think we better wrap it up there. But once again, really appreciate your time, all your answers, the sort of knowledge, and that you've probably given away a little bit as well, especially on those US players. But it's been great to chat.
I take back everything I said about the US. They have terrible players.
Don't scout it.
And if you sign any of them, right, it means you're a lover of Donald Trump, and that's the worst thing you can be. Ooh. So just remember that when you try to sign someone from the US, unless you're Shakhtar Donetsk, in which case you're trying to give them a great life in Ukraine, which is just a politically great country.
Thanks again. Hopefully it won't be the last time we have either of you on. Been great to have you both on, being good guests. I'm sure you'll have a few messages to sort of get you on again in the future. So thanks again, and all the best this season with your clubs.
Cheers.